In my final, I will be discussing what I learned in English 11-10-03. In the first clip, I interviewed Paul, who talks about the main struggle of students in 11-10-03.
More than anything else, students in 11003 are struggling with sentence boundaries sometimes. Actually, interestingly, Travis, you do not have this problem, right? You tend to write in shorter sentences, and maybe you don't combine sentences as much as I would like. But as a result of those short sentences, in part, you don't have any problems with run-on sentences, right? And Amira, I think you're pretty much done with this.
In English 11-10-03, I learned how to use comma and. This helped me avoid comma splices. In return, this helped me consistently advance new ideas, as Paul put it in one of my papers. Each week, Paul would give us handouts with examples of run-on sentences. This would help us figure out what we're doing wrong and how to fix it. With those handouts, we would correct the sentences and then go over them with our peer tutors. The best part of that was that the sentences were our own. They were sentences taken out of the papers that we just have written, allowing us to see common mistakes made by our peers and ourselves, and also a little bit of motivation not to mess up next time. Next interview was of me. I was interviewed by my classmate Amira, and she asked me questions about my op-ed. I chose to send my op-ed to the head of the gym, Mr. Lonzo Fuentes. In the interview, she asked me questions about what I would change in the op-ed. It was easy. Editing.
What would you fix about your op-ed and why?
Well, my op-ed, if I could go back, I would definitely spend more time editing it. I sent the email to Lorenzo Fuentes, the head at the gym. He responded to me with an email pretty quickly. And after responding, it gave me an opportunity to go back and look at the email that I sent. And going through that email, I saw a lot of just simple spelling errors, whether it's just using the wrong word or using, abbreviations for words, not even thinking about it. Those would have been easily solved by just, spending an extra 15 minutes just reading out the page or 2 pages that I had. I mean, when I finished, I basically just submitted it. If there was no red lines under the words, I just, assumed they were fine. So yeah, I would have definitely spent more time editing it. For the paper, I think I did a pretty good job on, adding ideas. I felt like I brought up enough ideas and didn't bring up any, problems. And if I brought up any problems, I brought up ways to, I brought up a solution for them. Editing was a recurring issue. I also had problems with it in my SSI. Editing was my biggest weakness. As you can see in my SSI, I misspelled simple words like material. Just reading it through would have solved these problems. My reading tutor, Chance, helped me figure out a way to fix this by just reading it aloud for 15 minutes would fix these errors. Here's a quote from my SSI of Paul talking about how many errors I had. It was to the point where he just stopped editing it. I interviewed Amira. She talked about how she needs to work on her organization. I, myself, need to also. Papers such as the ARP help me organize my thoughts by requiring a long page requirement. What was your biggest con with your writing?
My biggest con with writing was organization. I had trouble with this just because putting all my ideas on paper was hard to just figure out how to separate my thoughts, and I just had trouble with putting my ideas together, and they needed to be more clear and concise.
And then how do you plan on changing that in the future? How do you plan on, making it easier for you to put your ideas together?
I plan on doing better pre-writing and just reading and editing and looking over my papers more and paying attention to small organization issues that I have.
Would you consider using the writing studio more as an option? Do you believe that they could help you with that?
Yes, I thought that the writing studio was very helpful this semester with editing all my papers and being able to organize them well. My tutor was helpful in giving me different ideas in my writing as well that I hadn't thought of in class or outside of class. So
In the interview, she brought up a good point about the Writer's Studio. The Writer's Studio is a good tool to use, a place you shouldn't be afraid to go to. The course had a requirement of 300 minutes at the Writer's Studio. This made me comfortable using the resources on campus. In conclusion, the big things that stuck with me were editing, organizing papers, and using resources on campus. These skills will help me succeed not only in English classes, but all my classes at university level.